Already, thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Trudy.
Carrie, you're live.
Perfect, thank you. It is 6:33, February 27th, and I am calling our King County Democrat Central Committee Executive Board meeting to order. Thank you all for joining. And I just want to say, wow, this has been a very interesting news week as far as what's happening out in the world. And I just appreciate all of you making time tonight. Right now, I'm going to give the tribal land acknowledgement. Hunter Brown is not able to be here tonight. And there's also discussions regarding who gives the land acknowledgement. I'm looking for the lead from the Washington State Democrats. And right now it will be me. On behalf of the King County Democrats, I acknowledge the land on which we stand today as a traditional home of the Coast Salish and Duwamish tribes and the traditional home of all tribes and bands within the Squamish, Tulalip, Snoqualmie, and Muckleshoot nations. Since time immemorial, they have hunted, fished, and gathered upon these lands in a balanced and sustainable manner. We thank them as the original caretakers of these lands and waters and for their continued advocacy and stewardship. Furthermore, we recognize the invaluable contribution from these and all tribes to our state, history, economy, and culture. We respect their sovereignty, their right to self-determination, and honor their sacred spiritual connection with the land and water. We will strive to be honest about our past mistakes and trespasses and bring about a future that includes their people, stories, and voices to form a more just and equitable society. Thank you. Next on our agenda is our consent agenda, which is to adopt the February agenda, which I will put in the, I'm putting it in the chat. And also approve our January minutes, which were sent out in the call to meeting.
Move to approve both.
Is there a second?
Second.
Are there
Who
any?
moved on that?
I am sorry, I missed that. What was that?
Sorry, who moved?
Let me.
Bunny Hatcher moved.
Thank you, Bunny.
Thank you.
And who seconded?
Alexander.
Alexander. Are there any objections? Are there any objections? Are there any objections? Hearing none, the February agenda and the January minutes have been adopted and approved. Next, we have Andrew Ashiofu, who is going to give our Black History Month message.
Hi, everyone. As we think about the Black History Month today in this meeting, I want us to take a time to reflect on the struggles of the Black community, especially here in the King County region. We have redlining affecting us. We have the Black Lives Matter still moving. But also let us recognize the work of those that have come before us to ensure that our civil rights as Black people are heard in our political scene, in our civic justice scene, and most of all, in ensuring that the lives of Black people are valued here in Seattle. The ask today to everyone is not just being an ally, but being an accomplice to the Black community, is to ensure that in every space we are, we create space for them to have a voice and to speak and to be part of the solution. We don't want you to think you know what we need. Let us work with you or work with us instead to get what we need done. As we reflect on an election year, the question is, how can I ensure Black voices are uplifted during this election period? We are not just there for votes, but we should be there every single time. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. We appreciate you. And next on our agenda is a recap of our February 11th presidential primary and kickoff event. Again, I want to give an amazing, huge shout out to Melissa Taylor and to Mason Thompson, both for their work, along with several other volunteers who, without their organization, their drive, and their contribution, this event wouldn't have been a success. And I also want to thank both Kat Pipkin and Ann Udaloy, who formed our peacekeeping and our Sergeant at Arms team for their effort with this kickoff. Chris, is this a question related to the recap of the February 11th event?
No, I can wait until you think it's appropriate time. Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. I'm just going to give a recap and then I'll open the floor. So I didn't know. Thank you. One of the huge successes is regarding, we had our speaker program with most of our congressional delegation, the statewide candidates, and the King County council members. I've had several emails of thanks and also complimentary that this was one of the best events that King County Democrats has held since they have been a part of King County Democrats. And I just say, this is all to the volunteers. This is to everybody who really put their energy and time to make this a success. I want to I want to make a huge announcement of congratulations to Raise the Wage Renton. They were able to be platformed at our event, and Raise the Wage passed. Not only did it pass, but it was also highlighted in national news as part of this is what Democrats can do when they put their mind to it. I also want to call out the King Conservation District, our endorsed candidate, Brittany Bish-Billet, who won her race as well in the February special election. These are enormous, huge wins when we really come together and support our endorsed candidates and our endorsed initiatives. We had our postcard to young voters, which I know this is probably not accurate because I don't have an exact accurate count, but over 1,100 postcards I know got mailed out. Not only was it from the event, but also we had a postcarding brunch afterwards that brought volunteers together that just knocked it out, and it gave people a sense of purpose. And these were addressed postcards welcoming voters to their first presidential primary. We will be hearing later about canvases in the presidential primary. All of you are working on the state and national delegate. We'll talk about that. I know Hannah Floss, minding a table, had volunteers to become an election observer. We were able to sell t-shirts at this event, and also we were able to give people information on how to become a precinct committee officer. One of the things we'll be focusing on, and you'll be hearing later, is how to counter the Let's Go Washington initiatives. King County Democrats, which you will hear later about, is going to take our first forum regarding the Climate Commitment Act. We're going to focus on what does it look like if this gets repealed, which is, we really want a no vote on the initiative. We had Fair Vote working to bring ranked choice voting and house our neighbors, let's build social housing, as well as a photo booth. We just want to thank everybody for their effort and time. And we just want to say that this was a huge success, and we look forward to more opportunities like this in the future. Chris Porter, did you have a comment, question, or thought?
I was hoping to capture everyone's attention, probably at good of the order, with something that Andrew touched on, which was redlining related to housing, because I don't think we can end this month unless we truly understand the depth of which that goes. So I was just hoping to be able to speak to that, possibly at the good of the order.
Perfect. I'm going to make a note right now that I will call on you first for good of the order regarding redlining. Thank you. Next on our agenda, we have our endorsement committee report. The first, I'm just going to go through what we're going to review, and then step by step we will be both learning and voting. Our endorsement committee report will hear from I believe Martin Cheney or Beth Baisley. I know I will call on that, but we're going to review our early endorsement resolution. This one was passed in 2022. We will be voting on our 2024 candidate questionnaire, and then we will bring to the floor endorsing signature gathering for the social housing initiative and endorse signature gathering for the Kent District's initiative endorsed by the 33rd. And with that, we will bring up Martin Cheney.
Thanks. My remarks here are primarily centered on our questionnaire and activities of the endorsement committee. And so I would like to, and so that relates mostly to the candidate questionnaire approvals. And then I'm not quite sure how we want to take up this resolution from 2022, but I will touch on that very briefly.
We can't hear you.
Oh.
It's hard to hear.
Let me just check here. Maybe if I turn my microphone up.
Sounds better.
It's all the way up. Can you hear me now? Okay. Zoom interacts interestingly with the volume setting and muting. So, okay. Let me just go through my report here, which mostly focuses on the on our questionnaire and then activities of the endorsement committee and some asks that we have of you, and to let you know about our processes. And then I will touch very briefly about this this resolution from 2022. So tonight, the endorsement committee is pleased to present 9 endorsement questionnaires for your approval. The committee has had many focused meetings on each questionnaire to which all committee members were invited. In addition, the committee included subject area experts to ensure that the questions are relevant and appropriate to each position. The questionnaires were included in the meeting call and are 3 judicial questionnaires, the auditor questionnaire, insurance commissioner, public lands, secretary of state, superintendent of public instruction, and treasurer. So it is my hope that the KCDCC executive board will be pleased to approve all of these as a slate. Now, we are making some structural changes in how we schedule and conduct interviews for this year's cycle, following the successful model of how we manage the King Conservation District endorsement. We will be opening our candidate interviews to the full endorsement committees of every LD. Now, your LD contingent is already allowed to have a primary delegate and 3 alternates. I would like to encourage every LD that hasn't filled all 4 of those positions to do so. We will be using those people as our point people for communications with other endorsement committees for their LDs. So filling the positions on the committee itself is very critical. Now, many statewide candidates are telling us that they are unable to schedule significant interview time with every LD organization, but they are willing to accommodate King County's 45-minute slots that we have set up this year. And so it's our hope that LDs will find that attending our interviews will facilitate their own endorsement processes, and we are happy to provide that as a service to all of you. we will be making every effort to schedule multiple candidates running for the same position at the same interview meeting. Somehow Beth Baisley, through her magic, managed to accomplish that for the King Conservation District interviews, and we're hoping to have a little bit of her magic rub off on the rest of us as we work on trying to get those scheduled. If anything else, we proved that it is possible to motivate those candidates to all show up on the same night. So we're hoping for success in that. We are making some technical improvements in our infrastructure. That is, we are automating our processes more than they were last year, to do our outreach to candidates, to handle questionnaires, and to schedule interviews. And we are anticipating that we will send out an initial bulk set of questionnaire solicitations within the next 2 weeks. That is driven by PDC filings and is based on some awesome magic that Kat Pipkin and Aaron Schrader are putting together. And we will be having I'm going to call it a kickoff endorsement committee meeting on March 5th from 7 to 9 p.m. You should look if you're on the endorsement committee or a LD chair, you should look forward to seeing an email with more information about that later tonight. I intended to get it out a little bit earlier, but keep having issues with technical problems with my laptop computers. So we will be working on, in addition to reviewing our processes for this year, we will begin working on live interview questions, and we would like to, and we encourage input from every LD. So please pass on your suggestions to us through your committee members. So another plug to actually fill your committee member positions. And finally, to accommodate this, well, not quite finally, but to accommodate this year's changed filing week and candidate statement deadlines, we are planning to request a special KCDCC Executive Board meeting for Friday, May 17th to present our endorsement recommendations. Look forward to that. And if you have any input about that, of course, contact Carrie. Finally, we are planning to get reading this wrong. Finally, we need to get regular updates from all of you about any early endorsements that your LD makes, because your endorsements actually drive our agenda for KCDCC Executive Board meetings. So we need to get that information from you. We hope to reach out to you directly, but there's a lot of LDs in King County. And so the best way of getting that necessary information to us is to email endorsements-leadership@kcdems.org. I'm not sure that I have the ability to chat. No, I don't have the ability to paste chat to everybody, but maybe somebody who can will put that in the chat for you. And then to close here, regarding this bullet point on the agenda about this resolution from 2 years ago, we've recently been made aware of this resolution that was passed to accommodate limited early endorsements. I say we were recently made aware of that because that resolution and its effect was never integrated into the body of the endorsement rules that we are following. So we are in discussions about just what the significance of that is. But irrespective of that, at this moment, the endorsement committee is not planning on making any early endorsement recommendations. So we can have some discussion. We welcome your input and to see, if and how those rules are applicable to any of this year's races. And with that, that concludes my prepared remarks. If it's permissible, I would like to place on the floor a motion to approve the endorsement questionnaires that you were submitted to you, if that works with our process.
Are there
Porter,
any
second.
questions? Oh, great. So I'm sorry, who is that?
Chris Porter.
Great.
Okay.
And you seconded the motion to adopt the packet of questionnaires.
Yes.
Great. Tim Burns, I see your hand raised.
Yeah, I was just gonna second that motion.
Great, thank
Just beat
you.
me to it.
That's so wonderful. So the motion on the floor is to adopt the recommended packet of questionnaires, the judicial, which is Supreme Court, Appellate Court, Superior Court, Auditor, Insurance Commissioner, Public Lands, Secretary of State, Superintendent of Public Instruction, and Treasurer. Are there any objections? We need a vote on this. I will now call for a vote. All those in favor of endorsing this packet of questionnaires, please use your reactions button and hit the green button yes to endorse this slate. All those who oppose the endorsement of the packet of questionnaires, please use your reaction button and hit the red no button. And we will give it a couple minutes. And if you have an asterisk before your name, please use the green button yes to endorse the slate, or hit the red no button.
And Carrie, numerically, the decision is determined.
Great. And with that, the motion passes. Thank you. We have adopted the packet of questionnaires. Thank you, everyone. The next item we have on our agenda is to endorse the signature gathering for the social housing initiative. They have just launched the Progressive Revenue Initiative to fund the social housing that will allow Seattle to make a meaningful dent in our affordable housing shortage. And this is the signature gathering. And with that, I will entertain a motion to endorse the signature gathering.
So moved.
And who is that?
This is Melissa Taylor.
Melissa, thank you. Is there a second?
I'll
I'll
second.
second.
Are there any objections
Who
to
was the
adopting?
second? There, Carrie, who was the second?
I heard Alexandra Erickson.
Thank
Is
you.
that correct? Great.
No, sorry, I did not second that.
I heard it
I
wrong.
did, Andrew.
Andrew, thank you. Are there any objections to endorsing the signature gathering efforts? Are there any objections? Are there any objections? Hearing none, the signature gathering for the social housing initiative has been approved. Next, we have the Kent School District, number 415, ballot measure, Proposition 1. This has been endorsed by the 33rd Legislative District. And I will entertain a motion to adopt the signature gathering for the Kent District's initiative.
So moved.
Is there a second? Oh, who is that? Are there
Don.
any Don Bennett,
Don
thank
Bennett.
you. Thank you. Are there any objections? Are there any objections? Are there any objections? Hearing none, the signature gathering for the Kent District Initiative endorsed by the 33rd has been adopted by the King County Democrats. Thank you. Next on our agenda, we want to talk about the delegate selection plan. I know everybody has been emails from the Washington State Democrats. There have been trainings, and I have brought in Isabella Moffitt to address each of us about what they need to make this a success. And if we can highlight Isabella.
Hi, everyone.
Thank you.
Hi. I'm so happy to be joining the KCD board tonight. So I'm here from the state party. I'm the party affairs coordinator. If I haven't met you yet, I started in January and I'm really excited to get to know you all. I'm gonna try my best to hop into as many LD meetings as I can over the next couple months, just to hear from your LD and see what's going on with everyone. And I wanted to come in here and thank you, Carrie, for inviting me to give a quick reminder that standing committee representatives are due, either delivered to me, Drew, or our party affairs email account, preferably me, as I'm running that spreadsheet, and we need them in by Friday, March 1st. So this upcoming Friday, if they haven't been submitted, then your LD will not get representation on the standing committees for your state convention. So I'm really hoping to see emails from you all this week, and let me know if you guys have any questions. Yeah, Andrew.
A question I've gotten from people that want to do standing committee is, can they still run as delegates?
Can they still run as a delegate?
Yes.
I believe they can. I don't think it stops anyone from running for delegate. I'm not 100% on that, but I'm like 90% sure that you can still be a delegate. I can look at that though and send you an email.
I've been a delegate and on the platform and been the platform rep, so at
Okay,
the same time.
perfect. Okay, Melissa Taylor.
Yes, I was wondering if you all have estimates of how many hours are required for each of those committees and whether or not it's possible for there to be alternates appointed in case the time commitment is too much for any one individual.
So all I know as of right now is that the platform committee will require the most amount of time. There are 3 Saturdays in a row where there are 4-hour-long meetings to discuss the platform with the platform committee. And I will be at all of those, and then a couple more meetings in May following that. The other 2 are less time specific heavy. So if you're worried about that, it would be best to sign up for credentials or rules, which I know probably won't meet too often. I don't know about the alternates. I don't think that's a possibility. I can ask above from me though, for you and get back to you.
Thank you.
Mary.
Hi. Yeah, and this may already have come out somewhere, I'm not sure, but I know that it's already allowed for people to pre-register to get information about, filing to run and so forth. But can you tell me again if you know when exactly people can officially start filing? Is it right at the beginning of the month?
Yeah.
Or?
Yeah, so I wish I had a good answer for you. I'm really hoping it's before the end of this week. We thought it was going to be last week, so we're a little bit behind on that, working with our site developers. But the pre-register is open, and like you said, Mary, you should get notified if you pre-register when the site goes live. And those aren't due until March 31st, so you'll have some time, even if it comes out later this week, about a month to submit those. And so I believe the timeline is within a week. If it's not, I will let you know.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Does anyone else have any questions?
So please get those committee assignments over. it would be super helpful, and make sure that when you give your reports to the LD, that this is one of the priorities because it is due this week.
Yes, and also just a reminder, those standing committee representatives have to be elected, not appointed. They have to be elected in some kind of fashion from your LD. So if you have an LD meeting coming up this week and you still haven't done those, make sure to get that on the agenda. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for coming. One of the things that we want to help at the county is regarding an organizational outreach project. And I am putting in a framework that has been put together for you to go back to your legislative district or yourself. One of the things that we had talked about is that King County Democrats will assist in setting up several planning sessions for members of your legislative district to brainstorm, to collaborate, and to connect on relational contacts for organizations for outreach. The goal is to have a single or a couple of contacts who have relationships with organizations to reach out to for invitation and inclusion as each LD is building engagement for the delegate selection process and aiming to meet your affirmative action goals. I've included the link that we have sent out to all chairs, hoping that they have shared the e-board. And if you ask what's needed, we need each LD executive board and membership to take a look over this list, if that's possible, to do a brainstorm as a starting point to find out where you have contacts with these organizations. And King County Democrats will bring each of these representatives identified from each LD together to collaborate on the best approach for these organizations. Once this group is identified, we will begin the scheduling process either through Calendly, Doodle Poll to see what works for this group. And again, the goal is to leverage existing relationships within these organizations for outreach and for collaborating on the best method for outreach. And email chair@kcdems.org. And I also included my cell phone. I'm also good at text. So whichever is the easiest method to get these point of contact people over to where we can have a collaborative session where no one feels like they're doing it on their own, that we are all doing this together, and more brains are better as we get into how do we increase our outreach into some of the organizations we historically have not been involved with. Are there any questions from any members on how this will work? Mary.
Hey, Carrie.
Hi.
Hi. So just to confirm, I want to make sure that I understand this correctly. We are going to, the point is that once people are identified for each of these groups, or as many of them as possible, there would be one outreach on behalf of KCD to the
Correct.
organization, right? Like our individual LD is not supposed to be calling through this,
And it
list
would be
of
that
individuals or
collaborative,
anything like that.
correct.
Okay.
As an example, and I'm just making a story up just for clarity, if it is Carrie Barnes with the Irish Americans of Seattle, then I would attend the meeting with all of the other representatives, maybe Andrew Ashif, who has contacts within another outreach organization because he's on the board. And then I will say, I'm going to go to the Irish Americans on behalf of King County and present what does it mean to be a delegate? How is your voice heard? So that as folks are engaged, there's a funneling system for approach that then would benefit the 5th LD. It might be the 33rd, it might be the 47th. But that way, instead of getting 17 calls to some of these organizations, it's someone who already has that relationship and can walk them through what it looks like on behalf of all of the LDs.
Thank you.
And Andrew also pointed out some of the contact lists are outdated. If there can be any updating, we would greatly appreciate it. We absolutely know that some of them are out of date as well. And this is a great exercise going forward as well. So thank you. This is part of the relational, the intentional of having a group as we do our organizational outreach, both in the legislative districts that we in our community, and some of them cross all communities. That way we can all work together and also have a group about what's working, have that connection and collaboration about what's working, and maybe what will work well with one organization may not with another, but at least we're all having that discussion and gaming it out. Thank you. Are there any other questions for me? We really want to make sure that as we are bringing party building and bringing members in, we are also leveraging the existing relationships that we have. But thank you. Next on our agenda is committee updates. And we are going to start with our PCO committee. And then we're going to have three. We're going to start with our PCO committee, our volunteer and canvassing, and our DEI committee. And then we'll have good of the order. And I know Jeremy Barksdale, we've got a special speaker when we get to after our committee updates that he would like to introduce. So with that, we will start with our PCO committee.
Yeah, so we are working on, we're preparing for precinct boundary adjustments, which I believe are coming out relatively soon. And our committee is working tirelessly on getting all of our PCO lists up to date. I'm sure, I hope most of your LDs have heard from us by now about that. But the big thing that we are also tracking, and I think this is the only room that I can talk to this about and actually have people get excited about it, is redistricting. I have tried to talk my friends' ears off about redistricting, and it has fallen on deaf ears. But we, because of redistricting in Eastern Washington, we are going to be looking at new LD maps this upcoming cycle. And what the judge has currently indicated is his favorite map would create changes in King County. The two biggest changes are that, so I'm looking the 5th, the 12th, and the 31st would all be affected, these three districts right here. The 5th is going to potentially lose most of Snoqualmie Ridge and this area while keeping the old city of Snoqualmie. So it's going to create a little loop, weird looking boundary right here. And in exchange, it is going to lose East Wenatchee, the 12th will lose East Wenatchee and gain that part of Snoqualmie Ridge. That's going to make the 12th from a Republican +7 or 8 district down to a R+3 district. It would also be a district that Biden would have won by 2 or 3 points. This district has moved to the left. It moved to the left by 8 points between 2016 and 2020 for president, and 4 to 5 points left for governor between 2016 and 2020. So if we see a similar shift, the 12th is certainly up for grabs for Biden to win. But more importantly, because of the redistricting, the 12th LD's current sitting Republican senator would be moved out of his district. So this could be a massive pickup opportunity for Democrats in the Senate, in the Washington State Senate. The 5th, in exchange for losing Snoqualmie Ridge, will gain Enumclaw and pretty much all of this area of Eastern King County. So the 31st will lose a significant amount of its land area and voting population in King County, and will be reduced mostly to the Muckleshoot Nation as well as parts of southeast Auburn. So that will move the 5th LD to the right by about 3 to 4 points, but it would have a general partisan lean still of above D+10. So our three big targets then for this year are going to be holding the 47th and the 5th for King County. and then working with the Wenatchee County Democrats and the Snohomish County Democrats to try and flip the 12th as best we can. It might not happen this year, but the way I look at it is I think that we should look at the 12th the way we looked at the 5th in 2010, 2012, which is that the efforts we're putting in now are going to bear fruit down the road. And so really doing a lot of organizing in Snoqualmie and Northeast King County. We're going to be trying to gear up for that. So just be ready for that, and be ready if you're from the 5th or the 31st or the 12th, which I don't think we have anyone here from. Just be aware of those adjustments potentially coming down the pipe. We will know a final ruling most likely by Friday, March 8th. I actually am probably planning to try and go listen to the hearing in person, so I will know once the judge makes their decision on what map they will adopt. There is an alternative map proposed by the defendants, which would not make any of these changes, but yeah, that's a rundown of some of the redistricting stuff. I see I have questions, so I'm going to start with Tim since I saw his hand first.
Question is, the 25th is whited out. What's the indication on 25?
25. So it's all of these LDs are based on partisan lean. So since it's very light red to show that it's about 3 points more Republican than the national environment in the 25th. The 26th is about even, and that's why it's almost completely devoid of color. Yeah,
Thank
Amy.
you.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, do we have access to a map that gets more like down to the street level so we can see exactly where the boundaries are? Because
Oh,
I'm
boy,
barely
I
in the
wish.
5th as it is.
Boy, I wish that were the case, Amy. All of what I said is based on my ability to read this map at this level.
Oh, lovely.
So I've gotten pretty precise at figuring out where each LD or each precinct boundary is based on this map, and spent more time than I probably should have looking at that map. So that's my best guesstimate. We will know once the decision has been handed down and once the Secretary of State releases their updated LD maps. And then once that information makes its way to the state party, that along with the precinct boundary adjustments will be put into Vote Builder and Van so that you can use that for your LDs.
Great. Thank you.
Yep. Yeah, Beth.
Thanks, Alexander. This is super duper interesting, which is why you're hearing from two of us in the 5th. If you indeed are paying attention to this on March 8th, could you please just let those of us in the most closely affected LDs know right away? And then I'd be interested to know what time frame you anticipate all those other things that you just listed being released. I mean, I'm going to be super duper bummed if Amy Hamrick Lewis is redistricted out because she's one of my besties in the 5th, and it's going to be pretty crushing. But we have a lot of things we're interested in collaborating with our neighbors.
Yeah.
And as it is, the 5th is enormously rural, and we're trying to wrap our arms around that each and every time. So all of your help would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. I can kind of show you, like, at a separate time, I can show you exactly which precincts I believe are being redistricted based on the level of information I have available to me, which is public. I will let you know as soon as I know. In terms of timeline, all I know is that the court has said that they want the Secretary of State to have the maps finalized by March 26th, I believe, sometime late March. And then beyond that, it gets tricky on timeline. because that is purely up to the state parties, data committees' ability to input those changes. It's up to the Secretary of State's office to be able to generate those GIS maps. So beyond knowing what they should look like by March 26th, I really can't give you a solid timeline. I apologize.
That's all right. We really appreciate the incredible level of detail you've provided, Alexander. Really, hats off to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, Martin.
Yeah, so as King County's sort of special representative to the 12th LD, I think that the 12th LD would be really, really interested in a lot of this information. And I am wondering, they have a meeting coming up on March 4th, and whether it would make sense for me to do some outreach to their chair, and whether you would be available to do a little presentation to them.
Let me look at my calendar real quick. I don't believe I have anything on March 4th in the evening. So yeah, I would certainly be willing to present the information as I have it. Again, this is not to say any of this is final. The judge has not made the decision, so until the gavel falls, you know.
I can see that this could be like hugely motivating in terms of candidate recruitment.
And we also have the rep from the Diana Phillips, who's here from the 12th, although she doesn't have a microphone, but she is here as well. So I just wanted to make that known. And Dan, if you have any message you want to text me, I can put that in chat, but I'll make sure that everyone is connected. So thank you.
Yeah, like I said, I'd be happy to present to you. And this would also hopefully improve our ability to recruit amazing candidates in the 12th, because I just checked the PDC filings and we currently do not have any Democrats filed to run for office in the 12th. And so we want to make sure we can get them running and get them a good head start.
Awesome.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Alexander. Next on our committee report, I'm going to call up Amy Hamrick for our volunteering and canvassing.
Thanks, Carrie. So we have been doing a project in Issaquah to identify voters that we have no data on and find out whether they're Republican or Democrat. So our goal is 3,000 doors. We are falling short of that, so we do need more volunteers, but we have gotten through several hundred doors and we've had some really good conversations. A lot of the people we don't have data on because they're new to the area, so we've been able to do a lot of educating voters on why there's a primary now and there's going to be another primary in August, and kind of how the voting works here in Washington State. So it's been a lot of good conversations. A few Republicans, but mostly Democrats or Democratic leaning independents. So I do have an ask. I'm going to put the link to the rest of the canvases in the chat. We really would like to have a lot of participation for the last few so that we can get as many doors knocked before the presidential primary. We're going to continue after that, but we're also hoping to increase voter turnout with this, as well as identifying Democrats. So I've put that in the chat. If y'all could take it back to your LDs and help us solicit volunteers, that would be great. Thanks.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Amy. And please send this back to your LDs when you give your report. And our last committee report, I'm going to call up Andrew Ashufu from our DEI committee to give his report.
Thanks. I want to call on Anne Udole, please.
Is she here?
Yes.
Great.
To also, yes. Anne, are you there?
I am. Thank you.
Oh,
Yeah.
perfect. Yay.
So I want Anne to talk about the DEI training that is currently happening.
So we are delighted. The first LD DEI committee worked hard last year to develop the framework for having DEI training within our LD, because we recognized it was sorely needed. And the committee reached out to Erin Jones to arrange the training, and one thing led to another. And in order to fully support the training, we reached out to other LD chairs and communities to help join in and financially support the training. And I'm very happy to report that we had our first session last week, our first workshop, and had more than 70 attendees from all over King County. And because we joined together and pooled our resources, we're able to provide this at no cost to attendees. And I think it's incredibly important that we remove barriers to entry so that people know that they can simply attend and learn and don't face a financial barrier to attendance. We have very positive feedback from the folks who've attended. Only folks who attended the first workshop are invited to the second one, which will be in March, but we are also hoping to follow up with additional opportunities in the fall, both to circle back and evaluate ourselves and what worked and what didn't, but also to reflect in and prepare ourselves for what will happen in the winter, which is the reorganization of all of our LD organizations and our county organization. I am just thrilled at how much interest there is and enthusiasm there is for bringing these concepts forward and making certain that we're well grounded in them as we move forward and collaborate together, and especially as we do outreach to organizations in our community that are not yet engaged with the Democratic Party. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you very much, Anne. And so one of the goals about DEI this year is also to collaborate with the endorsement committee to ensure that we have a very inclusive, diverse, and equitable process in how endorsements are done. We keep getting feedback year after year from minority candidates on how they felt they were mistreated, and we should do better because we are the party of diversity. And I say this because we are also, part of the delegate selection process is meeting affirmative action. And the DI committee would be very active in ensuring that we create relationship with the networks we have to other communities. But one thing I want to say to everyone here, especially the LD chairs here, it is not on the minority or the person of color or the LGBTQ plus person or the person with disability in your LD to do the reach. You should leave that comfort zone and go talk to those communities to meet your affirmative action. We should not put the burden on the minority in your LD to do that. Please, it's very important because in most spaces, we are always the ones educating, informing. Sometimes we need a break, and this is a challenge to you. Leave your comfort zone and go create that relationship with communities that have been underrepresented in your LD. Look at how diverse is your LD e-board, for example. And another thing that is coming up exciting this time around is we're going to have the Pride this year, which will be slightly different than last year because there's been some updates where candidates campaign cannot march with the King County Dems any longer. So there are a lot of things we're working in the background to ensure that we're able to do this smoothly. But something else I want to do is to have us participate in at least 2 different Pride events because we need to decentralize the community from Seattle. So we're looking to support our members in other areas that are doing Pride this year. And we will be setting up a Pride committee, and we will work to create a Google form to send out so people could sign up and support us, because we're also looking for T-shirts to make this year. And it's very important because this is a very important election year. We have statewide offices, we have our presidential and Senate offices and Congress offices, and we need to come out and share the message with pride. Thank you so much. Any questions?
And Andrew, will you put your contact information in chat so that as folks are reporting back to their legislative districts and people want to join in to a committee to help with Pride and help with these events, they know how to get a hold of you?
I will do that right now.
And looks like we have a couple questions. Alexander.
Yeah, I was just curious, you mentioned that candidates wouldn't be able to march with us in the same way they had in the past. Will they still be allowed to participate in Pride even if they're not like waving their candidate flags and stuff like that, or are they just asked to not be a part of our delegation?
So they can match with us. We can have their names on something, but it has to be King County. It cannot be so for Congress. The other option is we can have, if they want to be solo, we can have them, the Seattle Pride is trying to see if they can put all of us together back to back.
Got it.
And just some updates. Congress people have decided that they will partake in Pride in their Congress area this time around instead of making it Seattle. That's why I want us to diversify our Pride events also this year. Tim?
You mentioned T-shirts, and I hope that you're going to have them printed in a union shop. I would recommend Button Smith as a union shop print.
I think he was saying he recommended Buttonsmith as our union shop that we are using for our current King County Democrat for blue merch.
Yes. I mean, we've always been using them.
Outside of a union shop.
And I just want to clarify is the T-shirt is coming from King County Dem. So the money is also part of our fundraisers and so we are just designing a King County Pride T-shirt for this year. So it's not separate from King County. So definitely will come to the shop.
Thank you, Tim.
Chris.
Thank you. First, I'd like to say that in the past, I had the challenge of designing 4 T-shirts under Pride for King County Democrats specifically, of which, yes, Tim, they were always printed in a union shop. I always went with the union shop that was going to give us the best deal. And 2, I want to be on that committee. And 3, I want to be on the DEI. But my real question is, what spurred those changes in the Pride Committee about sort of separating out and parceling out solo candidates versus just under the banner of King County Democrats?
So I wish I could tell you what Seattle Pride is thinking. We got the email from them, and normally I'll be able to. We normally would ask questions like that during the parade planning meetings, but they just sent out an email that this is what's going to happen. And there's nothing I could do about it, unfortunately. It's not a King County Dem's decision. It's a Seattle Pride entity. I hope that helps, Chris.
No,
I
I get
think,
that.
Andrew,
Right.
if I jump in?
Yes.
My understanding from conversations in previous years is that it's primarily a budget decision, or like a finance revenue decision for them, in that they want to only have single organizations within a single contingent. And they've given us exceptions over the last few years, and they've decided that they are not doing exceptions anymore. So historically, our congressional delegation helped us to fund our contingent purchase, and we all were able to march together. And so one of the challenges this creates is just overall funding.
Thanks so much, Melissa. Any other questions? Okay, Chair, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for all of your committee reports. I would like to highlight one project that we have coming up, and this is with one of our King County Democrat representatives from the 36th Stephanie Selt. And what we are putting together is a Climate Commitment Act forum. And what is its purpose? This is a forum that we will host as an education and persuasion opportunity to all LPOs, to all legislative districts, to PCOs, and the general public on what will be lost if Initiative 2117 is passed in November. We are in the very early stages of the planning process and partnering with Washington State Democrats to put this together. What we need are volunteers. This will be a forum, again, based on education and persuasion, because there is a lot to lose if Initiative 2117 is passed in November. And what we want to do is we were just at a very high level. Again, nothing is set in stone, but I just want you to make sure that we are able to get those that are passionate about clean energy jobs, which means labor. We are able to get folks that have worked hard to get the Climate Commitment Act into law to begin with, back at the table to educate what is at stake. Although it is a gas tax, there's a lot more that we will lose. What does that look like, and how do we bring in our partners? We're looking at our target audience is the 17 legislative districts in King County. Of course, chairs, executive board members, PCOs, our young Democrats, our candidates running for office in 2024 to educate and persuasion. What will it look like if this ballot is passed? Our student advocacy groups for climate action in King County, our climate action groups in high schools, our community colleges, Bellevue College, Shoreline, etc. Also our colleges who are the Student for Climate Action at the University of Washington, at Seattle University, SPU, etc. That we can get into these advocacy groups an invitation to come to our forum. We are targeting late date in April. And we're looking at the Machinist Hall. I know Buttonsmith, we're looking at places that hasn't been set yet. And again, our partners, Washington State Democrats, Northwest Progressive Institute, we're looking at reaching out to Fuse Washington, Washington Conservation Act, SEIU 775, and Building Trades. We're working on keynote speakers, but we do need volunteers for registration, sergeant at arms, again, peacekeeping, food and beverage, communication, graphics, outreach, and promotion. So as you go back and give that report, that is something that we can get really the youth really excited about to our forum for engagement, to see that we're really in need to defeat this ballot initiative in November. And with that, we are good to the order. And Jeremy Barksdale has taken a point of privilege. He has a guest he would like to introduce, and then Chris Porter is next after Jeremy Barksdale.
Hey, y'all. Got you on speaker. Here with Hill Harper running.
Hey, everybody. Hill Harper, Democratic candidate for United States Senate in Michigan. As you know, today was Michigan's presidential primary. I was there this morning, voted this morning, and then after that came here to Seattle for a great event organized by so many Democratic leaders, and couldn't be more excited about the turnout. You can kind of hear them in the background, but definitely going to come back. This Senate seat is in many ways a national seat. We have to hold the Senate, and you also know Michigan in many ways has gone the exact way the presidency goes, and so we have to deliver that for President Biden as well. And so we will be back as a candidacy. Would love to meet many of you. You can go to hillharper.com and check out our run. We're number 2 in the polls right now. We hope to be number 1 by August 6th when our primary is, which I believe is the same primary. And obviously, a lot of the issues in Michigan are very similar to the ones here. Michigan, 21% of the world's surface fresh water supply touches Michigan shores, and protecting that water has to be job one. PFAS is a forever chemical. I'm sure you all know what's happened in Flint and how so many of our lower income communities are hit the hardest by environmental disasters. We're working on codifying the Triple Blue leadership in Michigan has, for the state, codified women's reproductive health and women's reproductive freedom. We have to do that on a federal level. We have to pass the John Lewis Voting Rights and Advancement Act. Michigan, again, the leadership within the state has some of the best voting rights in the country. Yet, as you know, the 1965 Voting Rights Act has been completely gutted. And so we're going to do this work. Love to hear from you all. Love to work together. And love to see you when we come back. So God bless you and thank you for having me in your city.
Thanks, Hill. Appreciate it. All right. Good.
Thank you. And Jeremy, will you be able to put the contact information and everything so that when our reps are giving a report back to the legislative districts, they can have that information as well?
Will do. Thanks, Carrie. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Jeremy.
All right.
Thank you. Chris Porter.
Thank you so much, Chair. Before this month ends, and as Andrew had alluded to in his presentation about redlining, if we're to understand redlining, we really have to understand what all of this means in the context of being a homeowner. In King County since the 1970s, Black homeownership has been on the decline. It was a slight increase, I think, over the last year or so, but it's far under what it was in 1970. How did any of this happen? Yes, redlining played a part, but there are some other key factors that many of us kind of take for granted in how we come to own homes or how our parents have come to own homes. Any one of us who has a parent who has a home or a family member who has a home, and that home has more than $200,000 worth of equity in it, you are very likely to have yourself be a homeowner. So if I'm a Black person and I put my house up for sale, the appraisal means a great deal. Current information tells us that when Black people put their homes up for sale and get their homes appraised, they will be appraised 21 to 23% less than an equivalent home owned by a white person. An example was in Marin County in California, a interracial couple put their house up for sale. They got after they purchased the home, they did these amazing renovations, even added a second story, and their home was valued at like $987,000, which sounds like a lot, and it is in California for that market, except that it didn't make sense. What they did was what is in the literature known as unblacking the home, which is that you have to take down pictures, sculptures, anything that relates to your culture out of the house. They then got their white friend to stand in, and in doing so, that reappraisal by another appraiser came in $500,000 more than the first. So when we talk about this generational wealth, if we can't get past the appraisal of getting a fair and honest appraisal of the property, it will always keep us behind in that respect. Navy Federal Credit Union is the largest credit union in this country, opening since 1933. In a very recent article posted in CNN and a number of other news outlets pointed out that they have a history of denying and declining applications for Black people who wanted a home loan. And when they did approve those home loans, they were pushing them into the subprime market, and or they had a much higher interest rate. And this is even when they put white testers who had a lower FICO score and a lower amount to put down, they were still offered a better interest rate and better terms for their home loan. Also, there's this thing known in real estate as directing or dressing the seller, which is that if I'm looking for a home, I am directed only to certain specific areas. If I have a home for sale, other potential buyers are not directed to my home to look at it for potential purchase. So there are a tremendous number of barriers to owning a home and purchasing, selling a home and purchasing a home if you're Black or African American, and it's right here in our backyards. I know where I live right now, the covenant restrictions at the time that were in place would have prevented me from purchasing the home that I own now. And I know, and I'm not stupid to this, that when we sell this home, I will have to, as the literature tells me, unblack the home as to not incur a much lower appraisal rate, not because of there's something wrong with the house, but because who owns the home. Representative Jamila Taylor presented a bill that finally got passed that helps African Americans who were harmed by these generations of redlining and all of these other things that go in. And it was very unique in their language, saying the state of Washington is responsible for allowing counties and other municipalities to put these things in order, which led to this generational gap, lower home ownership, poor appraisal rates, etc. So there are some steps going. So when we look at generational wealth and poverty and what have you, it is far more complex than people know. And that's just some of the history that I think has to be brought forward. And transformational changes like what Representative Jamila Taylor and many others in the legislature are doing is what is needed, and a commitment at the highest levels of government to overturn this. President Biden has taken steps to put in to tamp down and reverse this appraisal issue too, because it really does significantly chip away at generational wealth, since we know that it's based on the property that we own. So that's what I wanted to put out there and make sure people know as we talk about Black history, what is, what's happened, and how we got to where we are today. Thank you.
Thank you. Alexander, we are good of the order. Alexander Erickson.
Yeah, I'm not sure if people have heard about this. I just posted a link to give comment. But Seattle is currently collecting comment on the rollout of a shot spotter technology, which has been used in the past by police departments around the country and has almost universally been panned as both ineffective and leading to an increase in negative interactions between members of the community, particularly members of the community who are minorities and who are, in fact, innocent minorities, and police. And this technology, basically, if you haven't heard of it, they put a bunch of microphones around the city, and they pay people sitting in a room thousands of miles away to listen to that audio and tell the police if a gunshot's been fired. They have, of course, a very high incentive to flag everything as a gunshot, because if they don't flag it as a gunshot and it is, then they get punished a lot more than the other way around. So essentially, it would deploy more police to what would probably end up being the most already policed neighborhoods in in Seattle, which, as a resident of the 37th, I'm very aware that that would include large parts of my home LD. It is something that makes me very upset, and it's something that the only good I can think of that would come out of this is that the courts would reinstate the I forget what they call it, the order on the SPD that would give the courts more supervision of Seattle Police Department. So that's the only positive I can see. And there's sure as a hell a lot more negative that can come of this policy. So if you could please take a minute to just give comment and encourage Seattle to not go through with this, because Harrell announced the expanding of this program, or the potential launch of this program, literally the same day that the mayor of Chicago announced that they would be ending their contract with ShotSpotter because of its spotty record and terrible record of increasing negative interactions with police and minority members of the community. So appreciate you guys filling that out.
Thank you. Are there any other good of the order? Hannah Floss.
I just quickly put in since I can't post to the whole chat group, I put
let me put that in there. Yeah.
It's an ACLU article about this shot spotter detection system, in case people don't know about it.
Thank you. Anne Udaloy.
Yes, this question came up in a community group that I'm a member of, and I want people to have clear information about it. So I asked this question of our King County elections folks yesterday, and got very clear answers. There's a group in our community that is currently suggesting that voters write in ceasefire as a write-in vote on their ballot. And I want everyone to understand the ramifications of doing so. Ramification number one, if in order to have your ballot counted, especially for the presidential primary, you must mark the outside of your ballot with your party choice. You must then vote the inside ballot with only that party. If you make marks on both sides of your ballot will be spoiled and not be counted at all. If you vote for a candidate and then add anything to the write-in line or make any other mark on the ballot, your ballot will be counted as spoiled and not counted at all. If you write in the word ceasefire, then your ballot will be counted as a write-in ballot. You have just denied yourself your franchise, and your ballot will be counted in the total of ballots that are counted as a ceasefire, as write-in, rather. There will not be any effort to identify which or how many ceasefire ballots were actually cast. So effectively, what you've done is increase the total number of write-in ballots, denied yourself the franchise, or if you've made additional marks, you could have spoiled your entire ballot. I raise this because there is a suggestion that, well, in New Hampshire, these votes were individually counted. I want to remind you that in New Hampshire, the entire Democratic Party ballot was a write-in ballot, and that there were fewer voters in the entirety of New Hampshire for both Republican and Democrats than we expect to see in King County alone. So should anyone ask you about this as an option, sure, it will increase the number of write-in ballots and you've lost your franchise.
Thank you, Anne. Mary Scanlon.
Oh, yes, thank you. Actually, I just wanted to ask Anne, I'm sorry, I forgot. I didn't hear what you said. Where did this originate and where is it happening?
It is being circulated through, you know how Facebook silos work. I believe that one of the sources is a faith-based community that is working for peace and is working for a ceasefire and is trying to draw attention to that in areas where write-in votes are inspected separately. And so I asked about this in King County and the state of Washington. The only time the write-in line will be inspected to see what's on it is if the total number of write-ins could make a difference in the election outcome, which virtually never happens. Then the only thing that's looked at is to see whether there's a candidate name there. If there's a candidate name, then that will be added to the total of the candidate. There will be no independent tally of how many of these were recorded as a write-in for ceasefire.
Thank you. Alexander.
Yeah, and do you know about, I know that in Michigan there was a large push to do uncommitted electors and write in uncommitted. Is that something that if a person was dead set on voting in protest against Joe Biden during the presidential primary, is that something that you would recommend as an option, or
uncommitted is an option on the ballot.
Okay.
It's a standard. You can fill in the overflow uncommitted. I will make no recommendation as to how somebody votes in a primary election.
That's fair. I appreciate that, Anne.
Thank you. Sophia Lee.
Yeah, I would want to make some clarification on that. It seems that the ask is to vote uncommitted and to get as many people to vote uncommitted as a sign of support for ceasefire. And yes, if you do manually write ceasefire as a write-in, it will, the only thing it will do is increase the number of write-in candidates, or write-in ballots.
Also, if someone were to mark uncommitted and then write in ceasefire, that becomes a spoiled ballot and it won't be counted for anything.
Yes, that is correct. The standard rules of the ballot still apply.
Exactly.
Thank you. Chris Porter.
As many of you know, I'm an election observer, and when you put names like ceasefire, Israel, Hamas, or anything like that on a ballot, the machine that reads it interprets it as a new, or interprets it as something it doesn't know, and then it kicks it out, and then they have to walk that through their system to make sure it's not a viable candidate, that it's well understood what it is. So there are some interesting implications and work that we put on King County elections when we do that. Now, people are free to do with their ballots what they want, but that's also part of the burden of when you put those things on a ballot, the additional work that King County Elections has to do to ensure that the vote is valid and that what you put down is or is not a candidate that either because of spelling or something, those are the things that they have to work through. But more to the point, we still need more Democratic observers. There are not enough of us. I still see them come in questioning the process, questioning the validity of what King County Elections does. And once again, they are an entity, an organization where other countries, other counties, other states come to them to understand how they run such a beautifully orchestrated election process. And yet we have conservatives and others who are election observers casting doubt and going back to their halves saying they don't know what they're doing at King County elections when they just aren't taking the time to understand how much energy it goes into producing the election results that we see, that we get. So we just need more Democratic observers participating in these counts as they happen.
Thank you, Chris. Vivian Alexander.
So just briefly, I attended the election observer training last Thursday, and I was just so impressed with all of the, all the checks and balances, everything that they do. I guess I would say to anybody any Democrat who wants to have something added to the ballot, I guess I'd ask the question, why? After all of the work that they do to try and get all of our votes just accurate, we are Democrats. So why can't we just, fill in Democrat? I think that, Chris, in the future election, when we have it, then we have all the opportunity to, somebody wants to vote as an independent or whatever they want to vote for, they can. But this particular one, let's just get our ballots in, is my thought. And I'm really looking forward to being an observer. I have never gone past the first floor over there in Renton, and it's another world that takes place. And we can be so proud of the people who work there and keep our votes accurate. So I really appreciate being able to have signed up for it at the King County kickoff.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Hannah Floss.
Yeah, since we're talking about elections, I do still have 5 more spots available for tomorrow's training. If anybody is interested in that, I will stick, it's elections@kcdems.org if you want to sign up. I'll also put the link in there for Carrie to post.
Perfect. Thank you. Sophia Lee.
Yeah, I would like to also add that we should not be just voting to push things along. We should be voting in accordance to our values and our beliefs. And part of that is having whatever reason you have to vote for uncommitted. If you want to vote for Biden, and that is along with your decision to do so, please do so. If you want to vote uncommitted, regardless of the reason to do so, please do so. It is up to you, regardless of the reason, it is your vote.
Thank you. Are there any more good of the order?
I've got a comment. I thought I had my hand up. Did it come down?
I didn't see it, but go ahead, Judy.
Yeah, one of the things I voted in the King County Conservation District election, but it was really difficult to vote. And if we didn't get much of a turnout, I think that could be a large part of the reason. And I told Tyler that. And I thought they made it really difficult just to do the simple act of voting. Normally, when we vote, well, a ballot comes to the house
Right.
or it's a post office box or something, and it's a snap.
And
this time I couldn't figure out how to do it for a while.
Judy, Carrie, can I speak to that?
Yes,
quick?
go ahead.
So having run in that election 3 times, it has actually evolved from you actually needed to request them to send you a ballot that you filled out and with your own stamp mailed back that some outside entity tabulated whose results were shaky at best to what we have now, which is online access verified through King County elections. The King Conservation District is taking steps to make the 3 elected positions district specific. Therefore, they can appear on a ballot. I don't think it's going to happen in 2025, but in the next one, that is where it is evolving. Because you're right, voters expect the ballot to come to the House and to be able to have access through that mechanism. And that's what really drives that much lower turnout. But just to keep in context, the about 10,000 votes we saw this previous one before the system was ever put in place, this race only saw like 100 votes.
100 votes for the whole thing?
For the total, yes.
I'm not surprised because it was very difficult. I hear what you're saying, that but I still think that the difficulty, and I told Tyler this, that I think the difficulty of voting. Yeah, go ahead.
King County Elections also has legislation that they are working on to get this to a place where it can be on a ballot. It does take time, but they are working on it. And as soon as we can support that bill, King County Democrats, we should get behind it, signing in pro and really support them. So thank you, Judy.
Awesome.
Yes. Are there any more good of the order? Well, with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Thank you, everyone, for an amazing meeting. We've got lots of information for you to go back to your LDs. And even though I have a cold, I'm going to work to get all of this in a document. It may not be perfect, but at least you have some reference with a whole bunch of links that you can share. And we just really appreciate your energy as we go into this year. So thank you, everybody. Have a great night.
Everybody feel better.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Take care. And Melissa, have we stopped recording?
Let me